In tonight's You Decide, we now want to focus in on the broad spectrum of 2024 as we continue to inch closer to primary season. So for much more, we now want to bring in Dr. Brent Nelson from Furman. So Dr. Nelson, thank you as always for joining us. Let's go and start off with the former president and his campaign finances. We know that a lot of his money, according to reports, $25 million in legal fees. One source telling the Associated Press $40 million going towards legal fees when it comes to his campaign finances. How do you think that's going to resonate with not just his base, but with more moderate voters who may be considering him for another term?
Yeah. Well, it's so interesting that being indicted doesn't seem to hurt him in the polls, but it's certainly going to hurt him in the pocketbook because somebody has to pay for all of this, and he's been using his campaign money to some extent to be paying these fees, and also apparently his employees at Mar-a-Lago as well. So the indictments may not hurt him overall, at least in the Republican primary, but if he runs short of cash, then he's got a whole set of other problems about being able to be on TV and those kinds of things.
And a lot of his supporters, and his campaign has made it a point, they have a lot of small dollar donors. Do you think that they'll continue to keep donating, knowing that a lot of this money could be going to just his legal fees as his legal issues continue to mount?
I think the short answer is yes, because they see him as standing in their place. He tells them that all the time. He says, I am persecuted because I'm standing between the enemy and you. And so these small donors see like they're contributing to their own defense by supporting Donald Trump's campaign because he speaks their heart. So I don't think it's going to hurt the money raising or those kinds of things, but these lawyers don't come cheap. And so there's going to be a lot of money going to these his defense teams.
Right. The current president, Joe Biden, he could be in some legal issues as well. It seems like the situation with his son Hunter continues to mount. We saw that plea deal fall through. We know that former business associate for Hunter, he was testifying on Capitol Hill. Where could that end up? And not just for the president legally, but also in regards of poll numbers when we come around to 2024.
Well, this, of course, is part of the Republican strategy to make sure that their guys' legal issues are matched in some way by President Biden's. Now, that doesn't mean that there isn't something there. It will take a while for this to spin out over time, and I do think that the Republicans have an interest in keeping it going, maybe all the way until next summer, where we could perhaps have two presidents, a current president and a former president, under legal pressure at the same time when we're on a run-up to the general election in November.
Something else I wanted to ask you about when on the topic of the former president, the current president. There was an interesting op-ed in the Washington Post about how Gen Zers may be to thank for not having a rematch of Trump versus Biden. What was your ultimate takeaway, knowing that there are so many younger voters now who may be even voting for the first time come 2024, and they may be the key to prevent that rematch?
Yeah, about 20% of the 2024 electorate will be made up of Gen Z voters. So these are young voters. They are registering at a higher level than young voters in the past. They vote at a higher level, and they skew left at a much higher level. So this is something I think that would worry the Republicans at some level because these voters tend to vote for liberal issues. They're not Democratic partisans. They don't believe in parties. They believe in issues. And so Republicans are going to have to find issues that will grab the hearts of Gen Zers. And that's kind of tough right now because abortion is one of those issues that the young seem to be really concerned about. So I think this is a problem for Republicans. They're going to have to find a way to attract young voters.
All right, seems like 2024 will be here before we know it. So Dr. Nelson, thank you so much as always.
Thank you, Justin.
And now